the sisters were so happy. So I was like, why are they so happy? We're so tired and hungry and walking so much. But also the women with them. So I was very surprised that there was something that they had that I was missing.
Hello and welcome to Kept in Her Heart, where we talk about all things faith-related. Today we have a very special guest, Sister Cinthia Carmona, originally from Lima, Peru. She's with the order of Pro Ecclesia Sancta out of Minneapolis at the Sacred Heart Convent. She's in her final vows and she's been a sister for almost 16 years. Welcome, Cynthia.
Thank you. And as you mentioned, the time of my final vows, you might know that I joined when I was very early, like 3 years old, kind of. So you can add up my age. No, I'm kidding. Just a joke. But actually, it wasn't in my early years that the Lord started calling to my heart. Although I should say, He started calling to my heart when in an early age, but I wasn't responding. So, I grew up in a family that we were all Catholic. So in Peru, it's very common, it's a Catholic country, but we didn't practice our faith. For example, I remember doing my first communion, a very special moment in my life, but that's why I said I think He was working in my heart, but didn't went to Mass after that. I don't recall deeply like a Sunday Mass practices or any other thing, although I think the Lord was still very much caring for our family. Little things like prayer as a family was something important to us. So the Lord still put some seeds in all of us, I think. And later in life, He called us through a difficult moment that my family went through, but it helped us really to go back to Him. So I'm very thankful for that moment, although it was hard for all of us, but it helps us to come closer to Him. And so during that time, I was already in college. So all my family started going to like daily Mass, rosary every day, watch movies, saint movies together. So when I was back from like school, I was like, oh, wow, this is like new and good. I knew it was good, but I didn't own it. So I did it when I was with my family, but then afterwards I would just go back to school and do my own thing. So, but providentially, I was invited to go on a mission trip, which wasn't something foreign to me. I've done a couple of those when I was in high school. So I went with my sister, and it was a great opportunity to get to know our sisters. So they were leading this mission trip to the mountains of Peru, and with a group of women. So it was the sisters, women, and a couple of chaperones that went. So
what kind of order was it? What sisters?
Oh, the Sisters of Pro Ecclesia Sancta, thank you. So they were organizing the mission trip. And so those were like 5 days where, honestly, it was a very hard experience as college student, because it was everything against my comfort zone, like not eating what the people would offer us, so a lot of potatoes and tuna. And but also we had like an experience as a group of lacking of those material things. We were hungry and tired and we were working a lot. So I remember complaining so much, but at the same time, everybody around me was with a different attitude. So that's what the Lord, I think, called my attention to. So the sisters were so happy. So I was like, why are they so happy? We're so tired and hungry and walking so much. But also the women with them. So I was very surprised that there was something that they had that I was missing, because we were living the same experience, but at the same time having different outcomes from that. So besides that opportunity also helped me to like break some of my prejudices, I guess, about religious life. So I thought, I've maybe seen once a sister before that. So I was already 17. But so it particularly remember this sister that she was a novice that went also on the mission trip. And she was, I thought, my age. And she was not, I'm sorry to say this, but I really thought like that back then, like it was ugly or grumpy or, you know? So it's like she could be doing something else right now with her life, and she's here, choosing to, I don't know, even be in a habit here in the mountains and walk so much and go through all these things, but she was so joyful. So I was very struck by that, and also the welcoming community they were leading. So they did really welcome me a lot and offer me to like rides to go to mass because I didn't have a car, or just to go to their events and things. So I felt very welcome by them, and I did started going to some of the activities when we went back from the mission trip. So, but then things start to come up, like in life. You have your plans and your structure of life, and so it was very funny that they invited me to Holy Hour. So the sisters have in their order also priests and brothers. So they would all have a Holy Hour with families and young people that will come every Thursday at 7. So it was beautiful, and they invited me. So I was like, yeah, of course, I'm going to go. But then a problem happened. So I had basketball practice from school. So I was like, how am I going to go to Holy Hour because I have basketball? So even now it sounds like, are you comparing basketball with Holy Hour? But it was a really authentic concern for me, like to start leaving the things that I was doing or enjoying, and to pray or to put God first before that. So I just started going like for 5 minutes. So I would just skip like 5 minutes of practice to get the Holy Hour and then leave. So I honestly only arrived for the final blessing, and I would leave until somebody called me out. So they told me, really Holy Hour is 1 hour. So I was like, okay, I need to start coming to Holy Hour. So little things like that start happening, like knowing that you have to prioritize something in your life. And so what's more important for you? So those questions start coming up. And so that was one aspect, but also the opportunity to serve and to be part of a community that would help others to grow in their faith was something also that really helped me in my discernment, because up to this point, I would just go into things. But then when I was invited to serve in a confirmation program as a small group leader, I encountered something different, that I needed to be a leader for those kids. So we were talking about prayer, about the Bible, and a lot of things about our faith. Jesus, of course, and the importance of the sacraments. But I was not living that. So I was like, okay, I need to be true to what I'm saying. And all of this will happen just in my heart. So I started praying, I started going to Mass, because I wanted to be true to what I was teaching the kids. So, and honestly, to be in a community was very helpful, because I would see that other people would just live it naturally. So it's like, okay, it's actually a thing to go to Mass on Sundays. Okay, so I have to go. Or to go to confession. I will see lines of confession, and I was like, okay, that looks like something important that I should do. So through all of that, I was able to start having some spiritual guidance from a sister. So she would kind of confirm the things that I was seeing in that sense. Mm-hmm. So, okay, so it was important that I would pray every day, and that I would clean my room, or things simple, but it started helping me to have a different mentality about the things that I was doing. So I guess once that spiritual life starts to build up, and then you pray every day, the Lord speaks to you. It's not surprising, but that's what happens in prayer. So it was a beautiful gift to see how the Lord started transforming my heart. And now I see it, but in the moment it just seemed like, okay, that's the next thing to do. Okay, you're being good. And it's like, oh, good, Sister Cynthia, you're doing things well. I mean, not sister, but Cynthia. But you're being good. Kind of that was my way to see it. But there was a moment where I had this opportunity to realize that through a conversation that really God has a plan for my life. So, and the conversation just came up, and I was like, I didn't say anything, I acted like nothing happened, but it really made me think, is this what God wants for me? Or what is, if everything adds up, God is good, He loves me, and He created me, then He has a plan for me. Okay, sounds good, I should ask Him. And it should be what I'm leaving, so it's fine. I'm gonna just ask Him to confirm, and also to walk the right path, because I do want to be happy, and that's gonna bring me happiness. So okay, I said very confident, went to my prayer that week probably, I don't remember exactly, but opening up that door of, what do you want, Lord, for me? Kind of like open. I think I opened it too much. No, I'm very thankful that happened, because I realized that God wanted something different. But when I opened up that door to that voice of God, not realizing that it could be something unexpected, I was very much afraid when I realized that, not like a voice, but just like a certainty that God wanted me. I was like, oh, I think you're mistaken. After knowing that really, what encouraged me to start that prayer was trusting in God. Then maybe I felt like it was too much. So I kept praying, not asking the same question, but kind of like before. And so, but God really spoke to me in a very strong way. So since he really talks to you in prayer, and he was telling that to me, I stopped praying. So I stopped praying, and actually not talking with a sister also that I was meeting with. And I kept going to confession and mass, but the rest of the things kind of like, maybe not, because that's not the way I want to go through. So, God will still speak very, very strongly through prayer and through mass and in confession as well. But I couldn't. I was like, I can't go to prayer and say, I don't want to do that. Like, it felt like it was like a straight no. So I just started getting distracted from that. And, but you can only fight God. I don't know, for me it was very hard to continue a life like that and say no to him. And so it was very funny. I was studying arts and graphic design in college. So it was very beautiful, and a very beautiful opportunity came up to go on a pilgrimage, which I don't know why I didn't consider it was a pilgrimage. So you will pray and go to mass. But what really caught my attention was that we were going to Rome and Europe. And so it was a pilgrimage from Spain to Rome, and it was going to be great. Everything that I studied, I was going to be able to see. So that was my motivation, which probably God worked through that, definitely. And so, yeah, I just remember going on to all these holy places. Like, not holy, but places where many saints were, giving their life to God with so much generosity and things. So I was like, okay, this is what you meant. So I really felt, I'm a very visual person, so I felt like I was in an open field, like standing, trying to hide somewhere, but there's no way to hide, and God just speaking to me like, this is what I want for you. So I was like, no, I don't want that. I was just trying to walk away. But thankfully, in that trip, so I think 3 things happened that really helped me. So one was like and you don't have to go to places to understand this, but I think I was very stubborn, so I needed that bigger push maybe. So one thing was Mary, that she, I think, gave me a lot of strength to trusting Jesus and God, that what he had revealed to me was something good, and that she was going to help me to do that. That was one. And then a second experience was a lot of peace. It was just a moment of peace. I don't know how to explain it, but we were in Assisi. A lot of the group went walking to visit all these places, but I was just staring and thinking of this great saint. He was like, I don't know, just meditating on the great gift that holiness was to everyone in the church. And I don't know, the beauty that it reflects in, I don't know, just thinking about how many times St. Francis prayed on those places and had such a close relationship with God, and I was there. So I was like, okay. And then the third one was actually an advice that a priest gave to me. So one of the priests that came into this pilgrimage was just recently ordained, so very young, and I remember since he was not part of Pro Ecclesia Sancta, the order we were talking, so he didn't know anything about me. So it was great to go to confession with him. So that was not a good intention, but again, the Lord helped me, and he recommended to me at the end of confession that I should, when we get to Rome, back then, St. John Paul II was a servant of God. So he said, when you go there, go to the tomb and really ask the Lord to help you listen to his voice through JB2, because he will always tell young people like you, do not be afraid. So I was like, okay. So that was a very important moment of prayer. And I think after that trip, I said, okay, I need to pray again. So the Lord really helped me. And I think just the moment, like when people say, well, when did you say and accept it? So I guess that could be a moment. I still remember the date and the time, the moment, the place where I was praying, just knowing that God was not like demanding or asking something of me, but he was offering me a gift. So the gift of being only his and receiving his love, like full, in a different way, fully, and I realized how much I didn't deserve that, and God didn't deserve me in a way, because of all the things that I made him go through, kind of, I don't know. But it's true that God loves us in our miseries like that. We cannot love him like completely, so it was a moment of surrender in just saying, okay, I want to do I want to accept the gift, and I want to, with your grace, to be able to continue with this. Definitely, I now see how without God's grace, you can't do anything. So it was a great experience, humbling experience also, but a great gift that I'm always grateful for, and the Lord always helps me to remember like all the path that he took me through, and to remember also, or that I took God kind of to also, kind of like how it's a journey with him. That's what I wanted to say, that you are really like with our miseries and defects, but the Lord always tries to embrace you again and bring you close to him. So very grateful for that to him. And so after that, it was interesting because there was a class of women that were joining that year. So I remember meeting with them, and they were so excited about the habit and the veil and and everything we're going to receive. And I was like, well, not so excited about that, actually. Those shoes are not like the ones that I would choose, but I want to do what God wants for me. And that's my joy. So it was a couple of months of not really, and telling my family and people, but accepting that God wanted that for me, I guess, and that I wanted to do what he wanted, but I didn't know what it meant. I mean, probably a lot of people don't know what sisters do. So I didn't also know. So I was just wanted to be led to what he wanted for me, and that was my motivation. And I guess for me it was very natural to choose Pro Ecclesia Sancta, like that order of sisters. Well, I should say, I didn't choose that because God put me, like, through them closer to him. So for me, I didn't even think about it, honestly, that, like, it should be in another place, because that's what the Lord took me. So I just embraced that gift, and that's what it was, a gift. So the moment I joined, and when I was there in the chapel with the sisters only, the Lord gave me the gift to realize how, as long as I'm trying to be faithful, in my intention at least, the best that I can, he was going to be with me always. And he was going to be with me always, even if I was not faithful. But as long as I'm faithful, I'm certain that also I'm doing God's will, like wherever I am, because I didn't know, like. And I think that ignorance in my part was a gift. Otherwise, if I wouldn't have known, like Cynthia of 21 years old when she joined, that I was going to leave 16 years after in Minnesota, speaking in English all the time, and, with the winter and all the things, maybe I would have doubted. So I think the Lord works very gentle in our hearts, like little by little, unveiling. So that's how I felt, and knowing that wherever I was going to be led to, or I was going to be with him. So that's a great certainty that he can work through me also where I am. So, even though I never thought I would be here being interviewed in English. So hopefully I'm doing what God wants me to do, and hopefully he can use me as an instrument also for those who he had in his mind back then. So it's a beautiful thing to know that it's not about you. I mean, it's not about you. It's a great gift that the Lord gives you, but there's so much behind that. In the service of his church. So I think that's all.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it sounds like it was really a journey, sort of little by little, of him leading you. It wasn't necessarily a lightning moment. It was more like a gradual thing over time. And so I think you said 17 when you went on that first mission trip with the sisters, to 21 when you finally were like, yeah, I think this is where I need to be. Yeah. How, so you're saying, looking back on it now, you saw him working, but how is your experience now? Obviously, you've been here for 16 years almost in the order, right? So you don't want to leave because you could have. So what is your experience now? Do you find fulfillment, peace, joy, all those things? Could you describe your experience in it now?
So, like I said, I think I was very open to what God wanted to do. And when you join religious life, there's many steps you take in order to go deeper into your call. So I think the beginning years, I would be more, my most deep memory is just those maybe longer times of prayer, in the sense that we pray the same time as we used to pray at the beginning, but as a life of more silence that allows you to continue that prayer throughout the day in a way that you're just discovering. So it's very beautiful and joyful encounter with God in a personal way for the first time. I don't know, that's how I felt. But so to grow in that love and knowledge of him, which never ends, I'm still learning and knowing. It's in my heart, I'm still like a novice that is still learning how to love God every day. But it's beautiful how it gets deepened into. So I would say yes, definitely it is a fulfilling life because God fulfills. I mean, he's the only one that can actually fulfill. So a life without God would be something that maybe it's harder to understand about fulfilling. And that's the beauty of our faith, that it's not just in religious life, but in each vocation, once you embrace it fully, then you are fulfilled by God. So I think that's been a great gift that I didn't expect it to be in that way, I guess. I knew that God would do it, but I think I'm still surprised every day of all the things that God can do, and in us, because especially the more you probably have experiences as well, you get to know yourself in a deeper way, also through prayer, and you see how much, how much God can really transform a soul and use a soul so weak, but he can use it still. So it's a great mystery. I don't know. we would all know and be grateful. I'm grateful right now for what God has done. So, yes, I hope that answered your question. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How did your family react? So, they had kind of a conversion moment themselves while you were away. And so I imagine they probably embraced it, but were they surprised, shocked? How did they react when you told them?
So I think when I told them, I don't think they were surprised. At least my mom and my siblings, my younger siblings, were not. But I was surprised to know later that my mom used to pray for my vocation. So after her conversion, she started praying for me. So I was like,
it's you.
Okay. It was part of it, at least. So grateful to know that I was something wanted in a family. I think that's not sometimes very common, but it is supposed to be something that comes naturally if you have in your family that great desire to really have God present, to pray for the vocation of your children. And I think that's a way my mom pushed me a little bit in my vocation without me knowing, but God can work through that. And then I think maybe for my dad was a little bit harder because So I didn't finish school. So something that I think it was part of his offering. But he was a military man. He is already retired. So I think his way to understand it also was kind of like comparing it to a little bit to what he experienced in his life. Kind of like the discipline, the obedience in a way, and the honor of service. So I think that really helped him connect. And that uniform, black, actually. So, I think it has taken him longer, but he has come into appreciating it more little by little. And some of my other siblings were surprised and kind of like saying, I mean, you look like you're happy and you want to do this. So, I mean, go for it. Yeah, go for it. So more in a simple way, but it was mostly very positive. I think maybe the hardest part for some extended family members were just the fact that they didn't understand, or so I think it takes a while to understand something that you're giving your life to when you don't know it. Yeah. So, but in general, I think to be grateful to God that it was an opportunity also, kind of like to go through maybe some of those things that were hard for them. So it was a great gift. Mm-hmm.
So since you didn't finish school, I'm curious, like when you enter the order, do you have to have your debt paid off? Like, how does that work? I know some orders require it. I don't know that all of them do. How does that work here?
So for us, it's not required. Of course, the debt part is something that you want to finish. Also to live fully your years of religious life. You're not thinking about you have to like fundraise and things. So it is something we try to finish within the first part of even the first year, I would say, of your formation. It's not something required. It's not something that is going to prevent you from joining the order. Mm-hmm. Same with the studies. You don't have to have a degree, but I mean, it's always useful. All the gifts that God has given us in every way we can use it to serve. So in my case, I didn't have to finish, and I actually used all the things that I learned and more that I learned in religious life. Honestly, I learned more in that same degree of breath. How you say that? I don't know. Like in that field, mm-hmm. And but it is something that we encourage a lot in our order, in the sense that if you have the ability to learn something that will help to serve, it's very much, I mean, it's something that you can grow in. Mm-hmm. Or also there's some that are assigned to go and have another degree or an extra degree or a master or something. So it's always in order to serve and not just to, I don't think anyone, it's just to grow, but it is a personal growth, but also a way to serve. Yeah.
Sure. How does it work? I mean, I'm sure it's a little different for you, but because your family's in Peru. Mm-hmm. But how does it work for visiting family? Does your order get to visit family? How often? Mm-hmm. How does that work?
So we usually have every 3 months a visit. So we'll have a meal together with our families. That will be the common way to approach that. But also we keep close contact over the phone, sometimes every other week, a phone call. It's always something very encouraged in knowing that they have embraced our call in a particular way. So it's not that they have to. We try to help them understand in a way that we can. First and most of all with our prayers. But also with trying to be close to them. I remember even maybe it was one of the sisters, sister that made this comment I don't think I'm closest to any of my other siblings than to my sister's sibling. So it's interesting how our relationships go deeper. It's not just about what you ate the day before, which sometimes we know, and it's great to share that joy. But also, I have to say that especially my family, they love to cook and things like that. So it's always a way to share. But it's mostly also knowing that we're united more than just more deeper in our faith. So yeah, I think I would say that it really grows deeper, like our relationship with our families.
Okay. Awesome. Is there anything else you'd like to share about the order, or any questions I didn't cover?
Many times I shared how now it makes sense, or looking back, some things were connected, but I think when I learned what our charism and everything that most of the things we are, when I started learning that, I was very surprised how the Lord really guided me to Pro Ecclesia Sancta. Because like I said, for example, before that encounter in the pilgrimage that I have, with that realization of holiness and how much a gift that is to the church, and then knowing that our charism is to live and promote holiness. The same way how the Sacred Heart was very much part of even my family and the first steps of coming closer to God, without really having a clear understanding that that was the spirituality we have in our order of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. So I can see how the Lord really leads you to where He has called you to be. So it's a great and comforting, I think, something to remember that the Lord knows. And we have to trust in Him. So when we are discerning, I think sometimes it's just a struggle of choosing and looking, and kind of like what St. Augustine said, that he was like looking outside, but it's in us. It's in us. And so that knowing God's plans in our life is always like something that goes into like an interior reflection of who we are in the eyes of God. He has made us for Him. So how is that gonna unfold in my life? So He has the answer. So I think that was very comforting for me to know, because I wouldn't be here. I was still looking. I'll be still looking. But knowing that God really has that prepared, and actually He's showing us that to us. So when He invites us to discern and to know what His will is, it's not like He is like asking that question to us, and then He is like hiding what He has for us here. I try to share with people that they laugh, because it's like not that God is inviting us to discern, and then He's like hiding what He has for me. It's so hard. So it's actually the other way. He's inviting us and wanting to have that relationship with us, so we can discover what's in His heart for us already, also engraved in ours. So I guess maybe that.
Yeah, and so kind of on that same note, if someone is discerning, maybe God is calling me to the religious life, like what would you recommend for them to do?
So prayer. I think prayer, it's a great gift. But prayer in the sense that maybe we have the personal time with God, alone time. I like to recommend this. So it is also like when you're driving to pray the rosary or to listen to a good audio. But what I mean is that you need to have that time only with God, where you can talk to Him and most especially listen to Him. Yeah, so I think that's a good first step in, the Lord leads us. He's like not hiding something. He's really showing. So.
Yeah, and if they wanted to learn more about your order, how would they find out more?
On our website, so we have the Pro Ecclesia Sancta website, and also our convent, so in Bloomington. So they can find us both those ways.
Excellent. Thank you. I appreciate your time. Thank you guys for watching. And if you want to learn more, I will put a link to their website in the description. You can check that out. And leave us a comment. Have you gone on a pilgrimage, or have you had an encounter with a sister? And tell us about that. We'd love to hear more. Thanks for watching.